All right, let's talk about something that can feel, well, pretty huge for anyone homeschooling a teenager: high school credits. Seriously, how do they work? What even counts? And how in the world do you build a transcript that colleges are actually going to love? Let's clear up all that confusion right now.
Does that hit home? I mean, it is so easy to feel completely lost when you're suddenly in charge of transcripts and graduation requirements. That feeling of shooting in the dark? Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to get rid of today.
Because here's the good news: you don't have to guess. There is a clear, surprisingly simple framework for handling all of this. So, over the next few minutes, we're going to build that framework together, and we're going to turn that anxiety into some serious confidence. Okay, first things first, before we can do anything else, we have to be on the same page. What is a high school credit anyway? Let's start with the absolute basics and build a really solid foundation.
So, what is a credit? At its core, it's just a unit of measurement. It's how we say a course is done. And for the vast majority of the country, the standard is super straightforward. A class that takes a full school year to finish, that's 1 credit. A class that takes a semester, that's half a credit. Now, you should know there are a few states like California, Indiana, and New Jersey that do things a little differently. They might say a year-long class is worth 10 credits. So it's always a good idea to just be aware of your local homeschool laws. But this 1.0 system, that's what you're going to see most of the time.
Okay, great. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. How do you actually assign those credit values to the work your teen is doing? It's so much simpler than you might think. There are really only two main methods you'll ever need to know. You basically have two tools in your toolkit here, and between them, they cover pretty much every learning scenario you can imagine. First, you've got by the book. This is for your traditional curriculum, your Algebra 1, your biology. When the textbook is done, boom, the credit is earned. Simple. Then you've got by the clock. And this is for everything else, all the cool, unique stuff. The self-designed courses, the deep dives into a passion project, electives that don't have a textbook. For these, time is your measurement. And speaking of by the book, let's be real about what finished actually means. Think back to your own high school days. Did you ever finish an entire textbook? I know I didn't. The widely accepted standard is that completing about 80% of a high school level textbook is more than enough to grant a full credit. You really don't have to stress about getting through every single page. Now, for the by-the-clock method, the gold standard is something called the Carnegie unit, and all that means is that 1 credit is equal to somewhere between 120 and 180 hours of learning. A good rule of thumb is to aim for at least 120 hours for an elective and maybe closer to 150 or 180 hours for a big core subject like math or science. It's really just about logging those hours. Okay, so we've got the building blocks, the individual credits. Now let's zoom out. How do all these little bricks come together to build the whole house? Let's talk about the 4-year plan. Your whole planning process is really a balancing act between these three key things. First, your state's laws. And let me just say, make sure you are looking for laws specific to homeschoolers. They're often totally different from public school requirements. Second, what potential colleges are looking for. And third, and this might be the most important, your teen's own goals. It's their education. They absolutely should have a voice in the conversation. And hey, here's a little pro tip, especially if your teen is dreaming of a highly selective school. When a university website lists recommended courses, you should think of that as the bare minimum. I mean, take a school like Northwestern. They have a 6.8% acceptance rate. You can bet the students they're accepting aren't just meeting the recommendations, they are blowing past them. So what could a really solid college prep plan look like? Well, this is a great example. This 26-credit plan is a fantastic guideline. You've got your 4 years of the Big Four: English, math, social studies, and science, plus languages, arts, electives, the whole shebang. But please, please remember, this is a suggestion, not a rule. The most important thing to take away is that there is no one right way to homeschool high school. This brings us to one of the biggest questions I get all the time. Can I really give my kid a credit for that? So let's talk about what actually counts as a high school credit. And I think the answer is going to make you really happy. Yes, you can. This is where the true beauty and power of homeschooling just shines. Whether it's a part-time job, a serious hobby, a volunteer position, look, if learning is happening, you can absolutely turn it into a credit on the transcript. As the homeschool parent, you have that authority. Let's make this super practical. Let's say your daughter is on a competitive travel softball team. So, step 1, you identify the activity. Step 2, you log the hours, all those practices, all those weekend tournaments over the course of a year.
Step 3, you do some quick math and realize, wow, she's easily spent way more than 120 hours on this. And just like that, step 4, you give it a name, physical education, and you award 1 full credit on her transcript. See, it's that simple.
So, now that you know what can be a credit, let's talk about what should be a credit. This is the final strategic piece of our puzzle, how to build a transcript that's strong, focused, and tells exactly the right story.
So here's a question you might not have even thought to ask. Can you actually have too many credits on a transcript? And believe it or not, the answer is yes. It is so tempting to list every single thing your kid does, but more is not always better. The average number of credits for a college-bound student is somewhere between 21 and 28 over 4 years. Going way over that can sometimes look like a red flag to colleges.
It all comes down to strategy and knowing the difference between a credit and an extracurricular. A credit represents significant, graded work. It affects the GPA. An extracurricular, on the other hand, is where you showcase interests and character on the activities list of the college application. If you try to pad the transcript with too many light credits, it can actually water down the strong academic core and, frankly, make it look like you're trying a little too hard. So be strategic. As we wrap this all up, I want to leave you with this one last thought. The transcript you're creating, it's so much more than a document. It is not just a spreadsheet of grades. It is the academic story of your child's entire high school journey. You have the framework now. You have the tools, and you have the incredible flexibility of homeschooling. You are the editor, the director, the chief storyteller of this incredibly important document. So the only question left is, what kind of powerful, unique, and authentic story are you going to help your student write?